You've been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Bupp has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Bupp.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here again with episode number 2 of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Today I have a great discussion lined up for you with Jeremy Cyrier from CREinvested.com. CREinvested.com is an online training portal for commercial real estate investment training, and it is hands down the best I've seen out there. I've gone through a lot of training programs, and I'm not discounting the ones that I've gone through, but Jeremy really stepped it up a notch when he created this program. So I think you guys would be very delighted with our discussion today and all the knowledge that Jeremy's going to share with us. But before we get on to that interview, I'd like to tell you about my week a little bit and what's going on in my world of real estate investing. I currently, as you know probably by now, because I'm putting on this podcast about cash flow real estate, I love real estate to cash flows, which means that I love multifamily investments, primarily apartment buildings and mobile home parks. And I currently have 2 different mobile home parks under contract. I'm in the due diligence phase of both of them. Just give you a little background on both these parks and where they're located and kind of how things are transpiring. We had an interesting turn of events last week with one of them, but the first one is a 35-space mobile home park. It's in the Atlanta metro area. It's about 30 miles south of Atlanta. It's 35 spaces, and there's actually 29 trailers currently there. It's a bank-owned property. And it's a unique situation in that it's almost empty, which is not typically how I like to buy. I like to have some kind of cash flow going in, but I think we may be able to steal this property at the right deal to where it makes sense for us to buy it with zero cash flow. And there's a demand in that market. I believe there's a demand in that market where we'd be able to fill it up pretty quickly, at least within a few months. So, but it's 29 trailers there. They all need rehab. There's about 5 people living in the park, but I basically consider them squatters because they're not really paying rent, and in fact 2 of them are paying rent, the other 3 are not, but the 2 that are paying rent, the rent is so low, it's about half of what the market rent really should be, so we're just going to have to get rid of them. But this deal, we currently have it under contract for $260,000. Just give you an idea of the the history of this park. Within the past 6 years, there was a loan of $1.3 million on this park, which I think is a little asinine, but we have it under contract for $260,000. And we actually just went back to the bank. We went up there for 3 days. I live in the Clearwater, Florida area, so it's about a 6 to 7 hour drive up to Atlanta. So we went up there 2 weeks ago and spent 3 days up there doing due diligence on the park. And we uncovered a few things that we didn't know going into the deal. It's going to take a little bit more renovations than what we initially anticipated, to the tune of about $100,000. Basically, every air conditioning unit on these trailers was vandalized. So they're package units, and there's copper missing and parts missing from each and every one of these AC units. So we're going to have to replace all the air conditioning units on all these trailers, which is going to be about $100,000 in itself. And that's not bringing into account all the rehab that's going to need done in each one of these trailers before they become rent ready. So they're newer trailers, which is a good thing. They're all 2005 model trailers, so they're vinyl siding, pitched shingled roofs. So from the outside, it looked great. The park actually looks half decent from the outside, but the inside of all the units, they're in pretty bad shape. So we're going to be into this thing. We initially thought we'd be able to get in and out, total rehab about $120,000, but it looks like we're going to be more along the lines of about $210,000 of rehab. So we went back to the bank. Basically, we actually got the bankers on a conference call, and just so they knew where we were coming from, so they didn't think we were going to, we were trying to go in and strong arm them. We actually walked through our whole process, our contractor quotes that we received. We gave them pictures. We basically gave them a full detailed description of our due diligence analysis, and which helped us justify why we were going to go in and ask them for a $100,000 price reduction. So, but long story short, they actually, we thought they were going to accept it, and I just found out the other day that they turned down our $150,000 offer, and I think we're going to be closer to the $200,000 mark. So we're basically going to meet them halfway, and the deal still makes a ton of sense for us at the $200,000 mark. This deal is going to be about an 8-month project for us to get it rehabbed and leased up. It's going to be about an 8-month project. And once we have it stabilized, which is about 80% occupancy, it will be throwing off, even with, we're going to put a little bit of hard money on the deal. Even with the debt service, we're going to have a debt service of about $200,000 on it at 15% interest, just temporarily until we can get it stabilized and put good financing on it. But even with that very expensive money, this thing is going to be cash flowing about $6,000 a month. And once we do get stabilized and get it in a position where we can get some good conventional takeout financing on it, the conservative value of this should be in the neighborhood of about $800,000 to $900,000. So definitely a ton of upside, but it's going to be a major project. But I'm okay with the project if I can walk away with, with $600,000 or $700,000 of profit after the deal is said and done. So that's the one deal. And the second deal that we have is actually it's a 71 space mobile home park. This one is in northern Florida. This one's an 83-year-old guy. He's owned the park for 30 years. Pretty common story with mobile home parks. He bought it 30 years ago. He lives in the park. He runs the park. It's his business. And he's become slightly ill over the past 5 or 6 years, and the park has gone really down the drain. And there's a lot of vacancies in the park, yet it's in a great area, high demand area, close to all the commercial development that, the path of progress that's happening. This one took a unique turn of events also last week. We had it under contract originally for $599,000, and it's actually a brother and sister that own it. They're twins. They're 83 years old both, and we offered them owner financing terms because it's got about 50% vacancy, so it's barely even it barely cash flows at all. In fact, it probably loses a little bit of money each month, but there's a lot of upside potential as well, almost immediately with just changing around the management and increasing our collections rate within the park. But they accepted owner financing terms of $150,000 down, 30-year amortization, 5-year balloon, and I think 5% interest. This was initially, they accepted this, and then the sister found out about 2 days later. They verbally accepted this offer. 2 days later, she found out she had cancer. So, needless to say, things drastically changed in her life. And, cash now was more important than cash later. So they basically reneged on their verbal agreement to do the owner financing. So we got together with our investors, and we decided that it probably still would make sense going in at an all-cash offer of $599, which is what they were asking. So we actually put under contract for $599 and got started on our due diligence. And then we realized that it really wasn't performing. We knew it was performing badly, but it actually was performing much worse than what we initially anticipated. Once we finally got financials from the owner, their bookkeeping and their financial records, we realized that his collection rates were terrible, and we couldn't get our investors to come on board and loan us money on this park in the condition and how it was currently performing. So we went back to the owner and said, or the broker that was representing the owner, and said, basically, at the cash paying cash for this, we can't justify doing that. We can't get our investors on board, so we're going to pull out of the deal. We wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you find another buyer. And about 2 days later, we received a call back from the broker saying that the owners have reconsidered and they would like to reopen the discussion of the owner financing terms, which the deal actually still makes a ton of sense with close to the terms of what they originally agreed upon for the owner financing. So we are now putting under contract again, because we actually backed out of our last contract, and we're putting under contract as we speak. We're going back and forth now, finalizing the terms with owner financing, and we're going to get another 30 days due diligence just to dig in a little deeper to make sure there's no other hidden skeletons in the closet. This one's going to be about a 12 to 18 month project. We're going to have it under purchase price of $600,000. And it's going to be about $120,000 worth of renovations, and it's going to take about 12 to 18 months to get it fully stabilized and get the empty units renovated and leased up. And we're conservatively anticipating in the 18-month period of time, It's going to have a value of right around $1.6 million, and that would be on a 10 cap, which is about what these are selling for. These type of parks are selling for in the North Florida region, or in this particular region of North Florida. So anyway, those are the two deals I'm working on currently. We've got a massive marketing machine that we're putting into place as well to start looking at other apartment deals here in the Florida area. But our primary focus is Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina, and Georgia. Those are the 4 states that we put a lot of focus and emphasis on. But our marketing machine, for the first year, we're going to crank it up and do a lot of direct mailing campaigns and try to do as many deals as possible in 2014. So, but anyway, enough of talking your ears off. I want to tell you a little bit about Jeremy Cyrier, who we're going to be having this discussion with today on the show. He's got a pretty impressive resume. I had the chance to spend a little bit of time on the phone with Jeremy prior to our recorded interview, and the guy knows his stuff. He's as sharp as they come, and he's actually the founder and president of CRE InvestEd, which is the online training portal, which I had talked to you about a little earlier. He's also he holds the elite CCIM designation, which I think there's only 14,000 of them worldwide. CCIM stands for Certified Commercial Investment Member, and it's a series of modules, trainings and modules and workshops that you need to go through and take a final exam in order to become a CCIM designee. And like I said, there's only 14,000 in the world, so it's pretty difficult to attain. He's also, not only is he a CCIM designee, but he is also one of 85 instructors for the CCIM network. So very, very impressive. He's also an active commercial real estate investor and a broker, so he does both sides. He has his own investments. He invests in commercial properties as well as apartment buildings. I think he said he currently owns and manages about 1,200 apartment units now, and they're actively buying. So, but he got his start as a single-family home investor. So he started kind of at the bottom of the ranks, how most of us start in the business, and he was buying homes, wholesaling homes, rehabbing homes, fixing, flipping, just doing, what most of us do when we get into the single family home business. And he decided he realized one day that what he was doing was more of a job, and he didn't get into this business to create a job for himself. He wanted to create a lifestyle, and he wanted cash flow. So the next logical step was for him to get into commercial real estate. So that's when he started taking his CCIM classes. He started to engulf himself with training materials and learning as much as he could about the commercial real estate investing field. And he's all around highly experienced commercial real estate investor. And I really, really think you enjoy our conversation with Jeremy. As always, our goal with this podcast is to bring you interviews with successful real estate entrepreneurs, industry thought leaders, and those who are really making it happen in the world of real estate investing. And Jeremy has all those things and more. So without further ado, let's go on today's discussion with Jeremy Cyrier. Okay, guys, like I'd mentioned, today on the show we have Jeremy Cyrier. Jeremy has quite the impressive resume. He's the owner and president of CRE InvestEd, which is an online training portal for both new and seasoned commercial real estate investors. He's an accomplished author, fluent in both French and German. He's a cyclist, a marathoner, an avid sailor. So his resume goes on. And I'm sure I didn't, even touch a little bit of what he has in store. So Jeremy, if you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes and telling our audience a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. So, yeah, what's interesting about my story is that I started out with pretty much no experience in real estate, and what I was on track to be a college professor. I was studying at the University of Virginia, and my plan was to basically be a professor and do that about 80-90% of the time, and then 10-20% of the time build a real estate portfolio. And what happened was, while I was finishing my degree, I looked around, and I said, "Geez, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a college professor." So I left school, moved back up to the Boston area, and flipped the paradigm and went into real estate. So I started spending 80-90% of my time in real estate. But the issue that I ran into was I was doing smaller deals. I was flipping houses, wholesaling, doing pre-foreclosure work, picking up small multifamily products, and I didn't understand the commercial side of the business. I hadn't had any formal training in finance. I didn't understand the market drivers that were pushing commercial real estate deals. I could look at multifamilies and kind of understand it in the sense that, how different could it be to have a 2, 3, 4, a 4 unit than a 20, 30, or 40 unit property, other than the fact that you just had more units to manage. Mm-hmm. So I actually went to the CCIM Institute and took their financial analysis course, which is their CI 101. And what that did for me was it turned the lights on. It gave me the tools and the vocabulary to start to understand how deals were underwritten, how leverage worked, understanding internal rates of return, discounted cash flow modeling. And I wanted more, so I finished the program, earned the designation in late 2007. The CCIM Institute invited me to apply to become an instructor. Went ahead, put all the paperwork in, then went through their process. It was like a 7 or 8 month process. It was brutal, but wound up being out of 250 applicants, there were only 12 of us that made it, and we were welcomed into the family, and then went through their training process to become full-fledged instructors. So now I'm a senior CCIM instructor. I teach CI 101, which is the finance course that did so much for me when I started out. But I also teach their market analysis course 102. What I found over the course of time, investing in my own deals and owning a brokerage company and providing consulting and advisory services, was that there was something really missing in the market. You could go to school, you could take a course, and you're either going to hear a lot of stories about deals that were done, or you're going to learn how to use a calculator or an Excel sheet or a software tool to run a cash-on-cash return analysis or a leveraged yield analysis. But no one was talking about how to actually go out and source the stuff. So how do you go out and find quality commercial real estate deals in the retail, multifamily, office, industrial, land, hospitality world that you can buy and hit an acquisition target that makes sense for you? Because at the end of the day, you're buying a property because you want it to do something for you financially, and you want the benefits that financial performance will provide. So what I did was I wrote this course, and I brought in a lot of real world experience, things that I had learned the hard way of how to go out and work on 7-figure deals, work with high net worth people, investors, owners, to talk to lenders, syndicate capital, and find deals, actually profitable deals that generate sustainable cash flows with growth and equity appreciation. So I took everything that I had sort of figured out and was using and packed it into this course, which is a 10-module course. And instead of offering it as a sort of a boot camp training experience, I decided to create it as a self-paced online experience where you can go and take this course and watch it on any device and experience the material, rewatch it, go through it over and over again. Because I found as an instructor that the biggest challenge anyone has leaving a live educational experience is what to do the next day. It's the application, it's the rollout. How do I make it work?
Right.
That's the hard part. So I wrote it in a way that would help people apply the material and start to make it work right away. So it's a little different approach. I kind of flipped the classroom. So it's about you go, you plug in, you get what you need, and then the real work is what you do. Was what you do with it, and it's designed to really kind of get you engaged and become more effective quickly.
Right. So this CRE Invest Ed, so it's not just theory. So this is based on real-world experience and techniques that you've actually used yourself in the trenches. So you're investing in commercial real estate yourself. You've fully made that transition from flipping and rehabbing single-family homes into larger commercial deals. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are two things. One is going to a larger deal. There's an allure to the dollar size, and a lot of folks tend to they really get focused on fees they make by syndicating a deal or putting money partners in their deal, and they want to talk about some big fee they made, or it's about, hey, I bought it for X, I sold it for Y. But the those two stories are a lot like going out and eating a steak. You're going to go to the restaurant, you're going to sit down, and you're going to eat once, and then you're going to wake up in the morning, you'll be hungry again. And you got to go do it all over. What I focus on is getting a dairy cow and milking that cow every day, keeping the cash flow going. If you have deals, larger deals that generate consistent revenue for you, you can buy the steak as often as you want to, but you always know the next day you have money coming in. So the whole story, and it's not a sexy story. It's not a big swinging deal, big numbers flying around. It's look, let's focus on the basics. Let's find durable, sustainable deals, because the one thing that investors are always going to pay you for is going to be cash flow. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants cash flow, period. And if you buy it, develop it, own it, you're always going to have someone who wants to buy that from you, period.
Right. So when you made your transition, did you initially go into multifamily apartment buildings? Was that the first step in your process?
It actually was the first, and I remember a deal I did down in North Carolina. Boy, I really screwed it up. I bought an empty 16-unit building. It was one of my early deals, and it was just such a bad deal for me. I mean, I ended up making money on it. Thank God for that. In the market, I have to say the market bailed me out. But the lesson I learned was you have to understand exactly what you're looking for and why, and you really need to understand the market that it's in. What I did was I bought a building on the wrong side of town. It was a C-class property. I defined the area as sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And literally, when I sold the building, the week before we were going to close, someone drove a minivan into the living room of one of the apartments. So,
oh my gosh!
It's just to get an idea of what kind of area it was. It was just a nightmare. But I survived it, and I learned a lot of valuable lessons by doing that. But what you fast forward to where, what was I doing in the past month? Well, now I'm negotiating on a 222-unit building in the Tennessee market, and I'm down. I put the deal under contract. I fly down. I'm on site for 3 days, and I go out and I meet with 3 different management companies because we use professional management to handle all of our assets. Mm-hmm. And I go around and I'm meeting with you meet with these companies. They know every single property in the market. It's their business. These companies have been around for years. They know all the parks. They know who owns them and what's going on. And I remember walking in, sitting down, in every single meeting, all 3, every management company asked me, how'd you find this deal? We didn't know about it. Okay? And that for me was really exciting, because what we were able to do is sit down and say, well, here's how we work. We are focused on identifying opportunities that are right for our portfolio. We look at markets. We understand what's happening. We understand where we think the market's going on a cycle basis. And then we have ways of connecting with people in the market to find the opportunities. And they're not, you can work with commercial real estate brokers. They're a great resource, but there are other ways to do it. You can go out and source deals and generate opportunities for yourself that don't require the traditional way of finding an opportunity, the way that everyone else is going about trying to find it. So what I do is I approach the process completely differently. And the idea there is to isolate an opportunity, be one-on-one with it, because when you're one-on-one in negotiation, it's scientifically proven you have the negotiating advantage by doing that. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea is to develop that advantage for yourself.
Well, I know that brings up a question that I know most of our listeners will have, and that deal that you just spoke about, how did you find it? What is the method that you used to find that deal, whereas no one else in that market knew that thing was even available?
Well, I tell you that there's, you always hear about the power of networking. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we did, I actually reached out to relationships that I have in that market. And I'll tell you, I can thank the CSAM network for that. I actually know people. I know people all over the country in every market, having been an instructor and just very involved at the Institute. I sit on the board of directors and just get to know a lot of people in a lot of different areas and a lot of different asset types. So one of the things that I did to find this specific deal was I communicated with a few of my key contacts in that market, and I let them know exactly what I was doing down there. And so let me define exactly what I was doing. One of the things that is so important when you're going out and sourcing deals for yourself, particularly multi-million-dollar commercial real estate investment opportunities, is that you need to know how to communicate your position as an investor. You need to understand how to articulate exactly what you're looking for and why. And when you do that, your level of credibility goes up exponentially, and the person that you're communicating with understands what you're looking for. So when you know how to do that, you're able to tap into a network of relationships very quickly, and people are willing to share those relationships with you because they believe that you are credible and you have the ability to perform. And that's all people want. The last thing they want to do is introduce a bum to a key relationship and then have that relationship blow up because this bum had no credibility and no ability to perform. So what's interesting about commercial real estate investing is it's a lot like buying companies. Okay, if you're just a Joe Schmo out on the street and you walk into someone's office and you say, "I'm looking to purchase a $5 million business," that person's going to say to you, "Okay, who are you? Where are you from? What's your track record? What's your experience? Where's your capital coming from? Why do you want to buy this $5 million company? Why should I introduce you to the CEOs and owners of $5 million companies that I know? Okay, how is this all going to work?" And they're going to vet and qualify you. So one of the things you need to be able to do is really understand how to talk about what you're looking to do. And when you can do it in a way that is clear, it's articulate, it's differentiating, it's credible, you're going to find that a lot of opportunities are going to start to show up for you.
Well, and I know that's one of the challenges I had getting into commercial real estate myself is actually proving that track record. I know that's a big part of it. And what would you suggest, Jeremy, to the people that are out there that are in single family? Maybe they have a couple duplexes, but primarily single family type investments, and they're looking to take that next step and they're looking to build relationships with the brokers and owners of these types of properties that they think they want to buy, but yet they don't have a track record. They don't have a proven track record to say, hey, I've managed 20, 30, 40, 80 unit properties. How do they overcome that?
Well, I'll tell you what you don't do. Don't call a broker and say, I'm looking for a deal in an emerging market that's profitable or that makes sense.
So you need to drill down. And you need to articulate exactly what it is you're looking for. I'm looking for a 40 unit in this particular market. I'm looking for a C-class property. You articulate exactly what it is you're looking for, and that's how you suggest building these relationships. Don't be vague. Know exactly what it is you want before you even get on that phone.
And there's a process you go through to find that. If we go back to our business buyer, guy walks in and says, "I want to buy a company." Okay, well, what kind of company do you want to buy? I want to buy a company that's got some growth potential and something that's making some money. Okay, well, what kind of company do you want to buy? Well, I don't know. Maybe it could be maybe it's a computer business, a printing company. I don't know, janitorial services. What do you have? Show me what you got. Hey, can you go find me something? And that is, I got to tell you, having owned a commercial estate brokerage company, those calls come in every single day to my brokers. Every day they get calls like that. And they don't even get out of their seat to do a thing for that.
And your broker's job is to vet the serious people versus the tire kickers, the people that are just going to waste their time because their time is very valuable.
Sure. So what you need to do, you know, a lot of people are going to be afraid of not having a track record. You don't have to have that. You know, what's interesting about this, and I learned this very early on in sales training, is that you go to the doctor's office and you walk in and sit down, the doctor comes in, and the doctor says, okay, so Kevin, how are you feeling today? And you say, well, you know, my knee hurts, blah, 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 and I've been running marathons with my wife, and I've done too many, I think, and I think I've run my last mile. The doctor says, well, let me take a look at it, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, it looks like we might need to order some x-rays, does the x-rays, puts the sheet up on the wall, and you know, you're looking at the x-ray, the thing's going out, doesn't look good, maybe you need some physical therapy, blah, 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 blah. How often in that conversation have you done one of two things? One, looked at the diplomas on the guy's wall in the treatment room to see where he went to med school. You're probably really focused on the doctor and what he's asking you about your knee. And second is, how often have you asked him how many procedures he's done on knees?
Mm-hmm.
That's
a very valid point.
Most people don't do that because they're so focused on what they're talking about, what the experience is, and the doctor walks in and you're assuming he has that level of credibility already coming in. You can do the same thing in commercial real estate investing. It's just understanding how to look and sound like the doctor when you walk in the room. And that's a big piece of it. That's a really big piece of it. The rest of it, if you have that track record problem, I'm going to give you some news. Most people have partners in these deals. There are not a lot of individuals, single persons, that own commercial real estate investment assets in excess of $3-4 million. Mm-hmm. Most of them are owned by families. They're owned by companies. They're owned by partnerships. They're owned by syndicates, all different types of ownership structures. So if you're having this if you're hung up on track record and it's stopping you, remember, you can be the doctor first. And if you're worried about not having the resume, then go get a partner who's got one and you start talking about we, okay? But the doctor says, well, our practice or our hospital has completed X number of procedures. All of a sudden, he's teaming up with a bunch of other people, and he appears bigger, deeper, more credible. He has bench depth. You know that you're in good hands. You can do the same thing as an investor.
Well, that kind of takes me to another point as well. So let me be clear, just to make sure I understand what you're saying. So I educate myself. I understand. I learned the terminology of the commercial real estate investment trade, and I articulate clearly to a broker, to a owner of a particular property or a representative of a particular property type of what I'm looking for. And let's say I make it to the point where I actually get a deal under contract. Let's say it's a 40-unit apartment complex, but I have no track record whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I get that deal under contract. It's a great deal. It's a great deal for that marketplace. Will I run into, how difficult is it for someone like that, someone without a track record, to find that partner that you speak of, someone that has that track record? If they're willing to give away a certain portion of that deal and the deal's sweet enough, will they have a hard time finding a partner if they go out looking?
No.
Okay.
There are two worlds. There are two worlds in commercial real estate investment. There's the capital, there's the money world, and there's the deal world. And they both desire and love and want to be together. So if you're usually on one side of that world. It's rare that you have both. You control both. If you go out and you talk to capital investors, the guys with the money, they'll always complain to you about quality of deal flow. They want to see better deals, more profitable deals. They don't see enough of them. The guys that have the deals, that 40 unit you speak of, they need the money. And they're always talking about, well, where can I get it? I will tell you that it's easier to get the money than it is the deals. So I used to know a bond trader at State Street Bank who had this great analogy. He said, Jeremy, having a deal and needing money for the deal, it's kind of like a crack in your foundation. Water finds its way in. So the water is the capital, it's the money. And if you've got an opportunity, it's truly a profitable opportunity, you should be turning money away, because people have money and they want the money to work, and they need deals to make the money work. That's the first and foremost concern they have. So one of the things that I recommend is if you're going to generate money partner relationships, it's a network. You need to have those relationships. You need to talk to people. You need to tell them what you're doing. Similar to when you call that broker up and you say, hey, I want access to your deal pipeline. This is exactly what I'm doing. This is who I am. This is what's going on. And you're doing the same thing in the partnership space with coffees and lunches, and if you're doing seminars and things like that, you can do that too. And think about it like it's like a business plan. I mean, you're going to go out, you're going to purchase companies, you're going to develop value in those companies. Those companies are going to return cash flow, and you need to bring investors in to help you do that. It's a deal. You hear a lot more about that type of thing in the business space, but for some reason in the commercial real estate investing world, it's a little more arcane. It's esoteric. It's not quite widely. It's not as widely discussed and talked about, but it goes on all the time. Every day, deals are put together with partnerships and co-investments and all kinds of things.
So become an expert. If you're new, become an expert at finding those good deals. And like the old saying goes, you find a great deal, you'll find the money for it. I mean, is that fair enough? Okay.
It is. I just encourage people to, one of two things. One is develop your money partner relationships along the way. And when you're very clear about what you're doing, it gets a lot easier. And then as you start doing deals, it gets much easier.
And where do you network to find those type of people, those type of high net worth individuals that may want to partner with you on deals? I mean, is this something to where you would join your local chamber of commerce, your local real estate groups, or are there other avenues to go down that are more efficient in finding these type of individuals?
Well, you've got there are a couple different ways to go. You can go with the sort of the community approach, and that is the friends and family, the chamber of commerce, the people you know. The other way to go is to go out to the hedge fund, private equity, family office world, and just start calling them up and ask them how much capital they had programmed to go into real estate investment in 2014 or 15 or 16, whatever their programming is. They diversify their capital into various spaces, and then who knows? I mean, maybe you hit off FCP relationships there, and maybe they become programmatic, where they'll come in. They'll come in on a series of deals for you.
Okay.
So it's both. It's both.
Okay. Well, take a step back a little bit, because there's a couple things that need to be learned by this investor before they go out trying to find the money. They need to become educated in the world of commercial real estate, at least, and learn the lingo so they can speak in an articulate manner with these potential owners or brokers that they're going to be working with. So I know there's a lot of new terms that come into play when you start discussing income producing properties versus single family home investments, and cap rate, gross scheduled incomes, NOIs, cash on cash returns, IRRs, debt coverage ratio, and the list goes on and on. But can you just speak a little bit to how what are the most important terms and formulas that a new investor should need to know before venturing out into this the sophisticated world of commercial real estate?
There's a lot,
and I'm assuming they can learn all this in your program. Your CRE Invested. I'm assuming you're going to do the step by step. You teach them all these different formulas, how to arrive at a cap rate of a property, what the current cap rate of a property is, what the gross scheduled income is, and how to figure out the NOI and what your cash on cash is going to be, and things of that nature. Correct?
That's right. And in fact, one of the things that I focused on in the course, you learn the language of commercial real estate, but you also learn the finance side. You learn the lending side, and then you learn how to apply those techniques to owner finance deals, working with sellers to get more favorable terms, convincing the bank how to to lend on the deal, how to underwrite it. But the thing that I was really excited about when I wrote the course was the cap rate. Okay, so a lot of people, the cap rate is probably the most misused calculation in commercial real estate altogether. Mm-hmm. And what is that? Well, the cap rate it's very simple. The cap rate is it's an unleveraged. That means that you have no debt on the property, cash on cash return. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. So if I pay $1 million for a building and it's going to pay me $100,000 in the next 12 months after expenses, and I have no debt, that's a 10% cash on cash or a 10 cap. So where it gets more complicated is when you start calculating the net operating income, understanding how to calculate it correctly. That's the next biggest mistake. People don't calculate it in a correct way. So you can't use the cap rate if you don't have a net operating income that's accurate. But the piece that gets really interesting is when you put financing on something. Everyone finances deals. So what kind of cap rate should you be using if you're bringing in financing and you know that you need to hit a certain cash-on-cash return, whether it's 10, 12, 8, 15%? What's the right cap rate for you to be using when you underwrite a deal? I teach you how to do that. I have a really cool calculator I wrote that does that for you. So you know when you sit down and say, I have to buy property at, let's say, an 8.37% cap rate. And I know that because I have to generate a 12% cash-on-cash return, and I'm borrowing money at 5% interest on a 20-year amortization in a 7-year term. So I know that if I'm getting an 8.37% cap rate, my debt's taken care of, and my cash-on-cash is taken care of. So I can filter out all the garbage deals in the market until I find something that falls within that range.
Gosh, I'd love to see that calculator. That's a very important formula to know, and to make it easy like that, just plug and play. That sounds pretty impressive, Jeremy.
It's targeting, targeting, and this is what the guys do at institutional level real estate investors. They're down on Wall Street and they're buying billions of dollars of deals. This is how they do it. So you can use the same tricks for $1 million deal, or $5 million deal, or whatever size you want to do, but it's available. So it makes it a lot easier to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Well, great. Well, it's funny. I was actually at one of my local real estate investing groups last night, and I don't attend often, only because most of them are focused on single-family home type investing. But I do show my face every once in a while just to see if there's any new people there, any potential relationships. And it seems like all the words in the gossip in the residential market is that there's no good deals left. I mean, and we know that there's reasons behind that. There's a lot of inflation being caused by these institutional investors coming in, buying single family homes in these larger markets and pushing up prices and almost creating another bubble effect. But does that hold true with commercial real estate? I mean, are there good deals out there right now? I mean, are there good deals on apartment buildings? Are there good deals on retail centers? Can you speak a little bit more to that?
There are always good deals.
Okay.
It just depends on how you define a good deal. So that's what it's all about. And one of the things that I focus on with my students and people that I coach is you need to define what a good deal means for you. Okay.
Good. Okay.
So that's you can go back to the peak of the market. People were still buying and selling deals and making money. You can go to the bottom of the market. People are buying and selling deals and making money. There are always going to be deals. But if you don't understand, if you don't have a clear definition of what a good deal is for you, then it's going to be really hard to say that you have or haven't found something. So when I hear that, what I hear is that people haven't adjusted their expectations, or they don't have a clear definition of what they want, or they're just doing a really crappy job at developing their pipeline of opportunities. That happens too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to get out and work it and find things.
Well, I know a lot of listeners on this call are going to be, pretty excited and interested to learn more, and they're going to maybe want to dip their toe in and possibly take that next step. And it seems like what you have there at CREinvestEd.com, it seems like it will cover all the bases of what we talked about today in terms of educating these new investors in the world of commercial real estate and how to analyze deals, how to find deals, and how to put together deals with partners or with outside financing. And so can you kind of give us maybe a 10,000 foot view of CRE Invest Ed and what they're going to learn? I think there's 10 modules, if I'm not mistaken. Can you give us just a 10,000 foot view of each module and just a brief overview of what they will learn in those modules and what just kind of set their expectations?
Sure. So I broke the course up into 10 modules. The first module is just the lay of the land. You're entering the commercial real estate investing space. Here's what's going on out there. The second piece is getting into the targeting of what you're looking for. So before you even start running calculations and doing all the churning, you need to really understand the main food groups: retail, office, industrial, land, hospitality. You need to understand what those are, where they are, pros and cons, and really how to define where you want to be and what you want to own. Once you do that, I take you through the financial targeting module, and the financial targeting module is designed to teach you the skills to run calculations from a gross rent multiplier through to the cap rate, through to the target cap rate, which is that leveraged cap rate that I talk about, the calculating annualized returns, cash on cash returns, so on and so forth, so that you understand how each of those works, and you can pick the ones that are appropriate for you. I also give you an Excel spreadsheet. It's a software tool you can use to run all those calculations. Each tab has its own calculator so that you can build your own profile. So by the time you're going into the next module, which is working with lenders, you're already calculating the returns you need to make, and you're understanding the where and what and why of commercial real estate. So you've already started to find the box that you want to operate within for your target. Once you go into the lending side, we start to talk about how lenders look at deals, how they underwrite deals, debt service coverage ratios, loan to values, and then in owner financing, how that works, why use it when you don't want to use it. Sometimes owners are going to say, hey, I'll finance the deal for you. They're setting you up for a pitfall, understanding when that's going to happen and why. So being able to really put appropriate leverage on positive, profitable leverage into your deals. Then we talk about working with the commercial real estate brokerage community. I tell you everything not to do in that market because it's even the most seasoned people make the same mistakes over and over and over again. So it's geared to help you understand from a commercial real estate broker's perspective and from the investor's perspective, both sides of the table. And one of the things that I did in that module is I taught it more around a script. So it's like you get to listen to a conversation going on between an investor and a broker, and then almost what's going on inside their heads, what they think they're communicating or what they think about what they're hearing. And then I teach you how to actually have that conversation, as well as give you a sample representation agreement that will knock the socks off of any broker that you meet or talk to or want to work with. After that, we go into negotiation tactics. We go into owner qualifying, and in the owner qualifying, we bring in a 6-step process to take the owner down to the mat and to find out whether this guy is a seller or whether he's a time waster. I also brought in it's actually psychotherapy techniques, and it's designed to develop a bond with that owner, but also to help them move from whatever obstacles they're facing in a negotiation into an action-oriented frame of mind that allows you to move forward with the process and to actually consummate a deal. And in the last two modules, we go into commercial real estate foreclosures in the auction world and talking about distressed deals, how they work, why banks go to auction, what they expect to have happen, how to buy at auction, what the process looks like, some of the pros and some of the cons of working that market, and then actually running a case study. So the last is now that you've gone through all this training, you understand all the tools and all the tips and all the techniques, all the ways of analyzing and evaluating an opportunity, and plug it all in to an actual case on an acquisition of a property. We do the full analysis using a piece of software I give you in the course, and I've had students tell me that the price of the course was worth just that tool itself. They said that is just awesome, because what it allows you to do is tie everything together, bring your financial target in. When you run your analysis, you get reds and greens. Reds mean that the deal doesn't hit your target. Greens mean that it does. Okay? So you're able to go through it. And then what I do is I work with you in the course to then make decisions. Do you hold the deal? Do you flip the deal? Why would you do either? And to force you to think through that process. So all in all, it kind of ties it all together for you. So you make a decision, and you understand how to move the needle, cash flow wise as well as equity wise, profit wise, on a transaction.
Love this content? Want to avoid the most common mistakes that most investors make when they're looking to get into multifamily investing? Download our free guide to the 7 habits of highly successful multifamily investors by visiting kevinbupp.com/guide today. All right, let's get back to the show.
I can tell you that sounds very impressive. And I mean, I personally have gone through a lot of different training programs out there, and there's not a lot out there for investing in commercial real estate, but there are a few, but nothing as thorough as what Jeremy just explained. And none of the instructors, not that they're bad instructors, but none of them have the type of credentials that Jeremy brings to the table, especially from a CCIM background and an instructor background. So, Jeremy, that sounds awesome. And I appreciate you taking the time with us on the show today to tell our students about your program and just explain a little bit to us about commercial real estate investing and how someone can get into that, that world and you make the transition from, single family homes to commercial real estate. And to find out more about your information, they should go to www.creinvested.com. Is that correct? Is that right? The best way to? Okay.
That's
and
right.
I noticed you also have YouTube videos. I've seen a couple of your YouTube videos, which have some really good content. Is there can they find those YouTube videos on the creinvested.com website, or do they have to go to YouTube directly to find those?
You can go to either one. I have them posted in our free articles section on the CRE Invested site. There's also a YouTube channel for CRE Invested. And again, one of the things that it's so important to me is personal contact and communication. So, Kevin, you and I have had a nice talk here. But everyone who emails me or calls me, I email them back personally or call them back personally. I'm able to do that because I don't train investors for a living. Okay, again, as I shared with you, this is something that I do because I'm a teacher at heart, but I'm spending 80 to 90% of my time in the market doing deals. I'm working in the business. And I think that's really important to me. And I think the people I work with that are students of mine really like that, because I'm not sitting in my office just giving out advice every day to people and not actually doing this business. So if anyone's interested in having a conversation, I'm available. My schedule's tight, but I do make it a point to have that live one-on-one interaction with everyone that I work with.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Well, Jeremy, one last thing before we go. What I'd like to do is, if you have any kind of inspiring or motivational words for those that are looking to get into commercial real estate, can you just give us one nugget of motivation that may help them make that switch and take the dive in?
Well, all I can really tell you is fail fast, fail often, learn from your mistakes, and be authentic. And if you do that, the integrity you develop in the market will take you a long way.
I love it. That's great. Well, Jeremy, thank you again for your time, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, that's it for this week's episode. If you enjoyed it and you want more awesome training material, be sure to download my free success guide, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful Multifamily Investors, by going to realestateinvestingforcashflow.com/guide. The guide will provide you with the 7 habits you need to learn to live by in order to become a successful multifamily real estate investor. This week, we'd like to give a shout out to Gary Wilson from San Diego, California, for downloading the free guide. Gary, you're a rock star, and with this guide, you're already 2 steps ahead of most of the other multifamily real estate investors. So kudos to you, buddy, and I wish you the greatest success. And that's it for this week, guys. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next Monday.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com, and we'll see you next Monday morning.